I agreed to meet my online boyfriend for the first time at a cafe in Gangnam, but when the man who walked through the door was Min Ho Kang, my cold, terrifying boss and Seoul's most feared Mafia king, I realized the man who had been whispering, "I love you," in my earbuds for 6 months was the same man I had been desperately avoiding at work. And from the darkness in his eyes, he was not planning to let me run anymore. Before we dive into this twisted, emotional love story, if you are obsessed with forbidden romance, online love turning into real life danger, and mafia bosses who fall dangerously hard, smash that like button, drop a comment telling me if you would have run or stayed, and subscribe so you never miss these addictive mafia romance tales. Now, let us begin. 6 months ago, I was drowning. Not literally, but working under Min Ho Kang felt like suffocating in silk. Beautiful, expensive, and absolutely lethal. He never raised his voice, never had to. One glance from those obsidian eyes and grown men trembled. I had seen a curator cry after a 3-minute meeting with him. I kept my head down, did my job at the gallery, and prayed he would never notice me. Then I met JK online. It started innocently, a photography forum where I posted my work. He commented first, then we messaged, then voice notes, then calls that lasted until dawn. He was kind, funny, vulnerable in ways that made my chest ache. He told me about his loneliness, the weight of expectations, the mask he wore for the world. I fell in love with a voice, with late-night confessions and good morning texts that made me smile like an idiot on the subway. "Meet me," he had finally said last night. "I need to see you, Aaliyah. I need to know if this is real." So here I stood outside Cafe Soulite, heart hammering, wearing my favorite cream dress, waiting for my online soulmate. But when the door opened, it was not a stranger who walked in. It was Min Ho, tailored black suit, dragon tattoo, curling up his neck, eyes that had haunted my nightmares now searching the room until they landed on me. And then he smiled. Not the cold CEO smile. Not the predator grin I had seen him use on Rivals. This smile was soft, nervous, real. He crossed the cafe in 4 strides, and I could not breathe. "Aaliyah," he whispered, and I heard it. The same voice that had told me I was beautiful, that had laughed at my terrible jokes, that had said he was falling for me. "No," I breathed, stumbling back. "You cannot be." He showed me his phone. The screen name glowed back at me. JK Soul 1990. Every message, every confession, every "I think I am falling in love with you." "Hello, my Aaliyah," Minho said quietly, reaching for my hand. "I have been waiting 6 months to touch you." I ran. Through the cafe door into the rain-soaked streets of Gangnam, my heels splashing through puddles as my mind screamed, "Lies, lies, lies." But he caught me. Of course he did. His hand wrapped around my wrist, not rough but firm, spinning me into the shelter of a closed shopfront. Rain poured around us, but all I could feel was the heat radiating from his body. The way his chest rose and fell like he had been chasing me for miles, not meters. "Let me go," I choked out, hating how my voice cracked. "No!" His thumb brushed my racing pulse. "Not until you listen." "You lied to me. You have been my boss this whole time, watching me, playing some sick game?" "I did not know it was you." His voice broke, raw and desperate. When I first messaged that photographer online, I had no idea she was the quiet girl in my gallery who looked at me like I was a monster. I stared at him, rain dripping from his perfect face. His usually controlled expression shattered into something painfully human. "When did you know?" I whispered. "2 months ago." His hand moved to cup my face, and I hated how I leaned into it. "Your voice note. You were laughing about something your coworker said, and I heard. That same laugh echo through my gallery wall. I almost broke my phone." "Why did you not tell me?" "Because you loved JK." His forehead pressed against mine. "You loved the man who was not your terrifying boss, the man who was not connected to blood and violence, and I was selfish enough to keep being him." Thunder cracked above us. "I am still him, Aaliyah. The man who knows you hate mornings but loves sunrise. Who knows you cry at animal videos. Who stayed up all night when you had the flu, just talking to you through the phone." His voice dropped to a whisper. I am still the man who is in love with you. My breath hitched. But you are also Minho Kang, I said. The Mafia King. Yes. He did not flinch. And that is the man who will burn this city down before he lets anyone hurt you. I should have run again. Should have blocked his number, quit my job, disappeared into the chaos of Soul's millions. Instead, I let him drive me home. His car smelled like leather and his cologne, the same scent that now made my stomach flip instead of churn with anxiety. We sat in silence, the city lights blurring past, my mind a war zone. Say something, Minho finally murmured. What do you want me to say? I turned to him. That I am okay with this? That discovering the man I fell for is also the man whose reputation makes grown men cross the street is somehow romantic? No. His jaw tightened. I want you to say you felt it too. That every time we passed each other in the gallery, something sparked. That you hated how you noticed when I wore a new tie or how your heart jumped when I said your name. I bit my lip because he was right. God help me, he was right. It does not matter what I felt, I said quietly. You are dangerous, Minho. Your world is not mine. I would never let it touch you. You cannot promise that. He pulled over abruptly, the car idling on a quiet street. When he looked at me, his eyes held something fierce and fragile all at once. Then tell me to leave you alone, Aaliyah. Tell me you feel nothing, and I will disappear from your life. You will never see me again, not at work, not online, nowhere. My throat closed. You would really do that? If it means you are happy? His hand hovered near my face, not quite touching. Yes, even if it destroys me. We stared at each other, the space between us crackling with everything unsaid. I should have told him to go. Should have chosen safety over this terrifying, consuming pull. Instead, I whispered, I cannot tell you that. His eyes darkened. Why not? Because it would be a lie. The confession hung between us like a lit fuse. And then his phone rang, shattering the moment. A sharp, urgent sound that made his entire body go rigid. One glance at the screen and the CEO mask slammed back into place. I have to go, he said, his voice turning to ice. Now. The hospital fluorescent lights burned my eyes as I paced the waiting room at 2 a.m. Minho had not called me, had not texted. But when his assistant showed up at my apartment 3 hours ago, blood on his shirt and terror in his eyes, saying, "Boss needs you," I did not hesitate. Now I sat in the sterile hallway, waiting while doctors worked on whatever had happened to him. Miss Carter. A tall man approached, sharp suit, cold eyes, a scar running down his jaw. One of Minho's men. You should not be here, he said flatly. This is not your world. I am not leaving. He studied me with something like respect. He got stabbed protecting a shipment, rival gang. If you stay, you become a target too. My hands clenched. I said I am not leaving. 2 more hours passed before they let me in. Minho lay in the private room, shirt gone, bandages wrapped around his torso, his face pale but his eyes sharp when they found me. You came, he breathed, almost disbelieving. You idiot. I moved to his bedside, hands shaking. You absolute idiot. Aaliyah, do not. I pressed my fingers to his lips, tears burning my eyes. Do not make excuses. Do not tell me this is your life. I know what you are, Minho, and I am still here. His hand caught mine, holding it against his mouth like a prayer. Why? He whispered against my skin. Because 6 months ago, a stranger made me feel seen for the first time in my life. And 3 hours ago, I realized that if something happened to you, I would not survive it. The confession tore out of me. I do not care about your world. I care about you. Something broke in his expression. Relief and agony and love all tangled together. Come here, he rasped. I leaned down and his hand slid into my hair, pulling me close until our foreheads touched. I love you, Aaliyah, he whispered. God help us both. But I love you. I love you too, I breathed back. And then he kissed me, soft, desperate, tasting like copper and salvation. For 3 days, I stayed by his side. The gallery gave me emergency leave. Minho's men brought me clothes, food, anything I needed. I learned their names: Jay, Tae-sung, Juan. They stopped looking at me like a liability and started nodding respectfully when I entered the room. On the fourth morning, Minho was finally sitting up, color returning to his face. "Tell me," I said softly, tracing the edge of his bandage. "Tell me how this started." He was quiet for a long moment, fingers threading through mine. "My father," he finally said. "He built this empire on blood and fear. When he died, I inherited everything: the business, the enemies, the weight of a crown I never asked for." His thumb brushed my knuckles. "I was 23. I wanted to be a photographer." My heart cracked. Like JK. Like the man I could have been. He looked at me. "You were the first person who saw him, who loved him." I leaned up to kiss his jaw softly. "I love all of you." He pulled me closer, and then the door exploded inward. Not metaphorically, literally shattered into splinters as 5 armed men stormed in, guns raised. Minho shoved me behind him despite his injury, his body a shield even as blood seeped through his bandages. "Kang Min-ho," the leader sneered in Korean. "Your father took everything from us. Now we take everything from you." His gun swung toward me, time fractured. Minho lunged, grabbing a scalpel from the medical tray, and I screamed as chaos erupted. His men flooding in, gunshots cracking, Minho moving like a demon despite his wound, protecting me with his body even as he fought. It ended in 90 seconds. 5 bodies on the floor. Minho swaying, fresh blood blooming across his bandages, his hand still gripping mine so tight it hurt. "Are you hurt?" he gasped, searching my face frantically. "Did they touch you?" "I am fine," I sobbed, catching him as he stumbled. "But you are not." "Minho, you tore your stitches." "I do not care." He cupped my face with blood-stained hands. "I do not care about anything except keeping you safe." They moved us to a safe house in the mountains. A sprawling traditional hanok, all wooden beams and paper screens, surrounded by forest and silence. Minho's private sanctuary, he told me. The only place he ever felt peace. His men secured the perimeter, while a private doctor restitched his wounds, lecturing him in rapid Korean about being a reckless fool. I sat beside him through it all, holding his hand. That night, we lay together in his room, moonlight streaming through the windows. He was shirtless, bandages stark against his tattooed skin. The dragon that wound up his ribs, the Korean characters over his heart that I now knew meant freedom. "Tell me something JK never told me," I whispered, tracing the ink carefully. He smiled, that soft, real smile that still made my heart skip. "I was terrified the first time I heard your voice." Terrified? Because it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard, and I knew I was already in too deep. His fingers drew patterns on my back. I used to sit in my office and listen to your laugh echoing from the gallery floor, hating that I could not be the one making you smile. "You made me smile every night," I said, "as JK. And now, as Minho?" I looked up at him. "Now you make me feel alive." He kissed me then, slow and deep and achingly gentle, like I was something precious he was afraid to break. His hand cradled my face, thumb brushing away tears I had not realized were falling. "I want forever with you," he murmured against my lips. "I want morning coffee and late-night conversations and your terrible singing in my shower. I want the life my father's choices stole from me." "Then take it," I breathed. "Take it with me." Something shifted in his eyes. Hope, fierce and fragile. "It will not be easy, Aaliyah. My enemies will come. My past will haunt us. Then we will face it together." He pulled me closer until I was draped across his chest, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. "Together," he repeated like a vow, and for the first time since this chaos began, I felt safe. What would you sacrifice for a love that could destroy you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like and subscribe for more. The betrayal came from inside. Jay, one of Minho's most trusted men, had been feeding information to the rival gang for months. And worse, he had been the one who told them about me. We discovered it when Minho's tech specialist traced the leak. The evidence was damning, undeniable. But the real damage came when Jay played his final card. He leaked photos to every major news outlet in Seoul. Pictures of me and Min-ho together, my face clear as day. Headlines screamed, Mafia King's secret girlfriend. Gallery worker entangled with underworld boss. Who is Kang Min-ho's mystery woman? By morning, my entire life was exposed. My phone would not stop ringing. News vans parked outside my apartment. My family called, terrified and confused. My friends sent messages asking if it was true, if I was safe, if I had lost my mind. And through it all, Min-ho was silent. He stood at the window of the safe house, back rigid, hands clenched into fists. Say something, I finally whispered. I should have protected you better. His voice was hollow. This is exactly what I feared. Your life destroyed because of me. My life is not destroyed. Look at your phone, Aaliyah. He spun around and the anguish in his eyes gutted me. Look at what I have done to you. You cannot go back to normal now. Cannot be anonymous. Cannot be safe. I do not want to be safe without you. You should. His hand slammed against the wall. You should want normal and peace and a man who does not paint targets on the people he loves. The words hung between us like shattered glass. Is that what you want? I asked quietly, something breaking inside me. For me to leave? He closed his eyes, jaw working. I want you to have the life you deserve. And you think that life does not include you? I know it does not. The finality in his voice shattered me. Then I guess we are done, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. Because I am not going to beg someone to let me love them. I walked out of that room, and he did not follow. I spent 2 days at a hotel, alone, drowning in silence. The news cycle had moved on to the next scandal, but the damage remained. I had resigned from the gallery via email, avoided my family's calls, existed in a numb, gray space where nothing felt real. My phone sat on the nightstand, his contact staring back at me. 17 times I had typed a message. 17 times I had deleted it. Because what was left to say? He had made his choice. He thought protecting me meant pushing me away, and maybe he was right. Maybe loving Min-ho Kang was the most beautiful mistake I would ever make. But God, I missed him. Missed his voice, his smile, the way he looked at me like I was his entire world. On the third night, someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Tae-sung, Min-ho's second-in-command, looking uncomfortable. He is falling apart, he said without preamble. Has not slept, barely eats, just sits in that room staring at your picture like a ghost. My chest tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because in 10 years, I have never seen Boss vulnerable, never seen him human. Tae-sung met my eyes. You did that. You made him remember he is more than the monster his father built. He pushed me away because he is an idiot who thinks he is protecting you. A slight smile. But I think you are brave enough to fight for him anyway. He left an address on a card and walked away. I stared at it for an hour. Then I got dressed, called a cab, and made my choice. The safe house was dark when I arrived, except for one light in Min-ho's room. I found him at the window exactly where I had left him, looking hollowed out and lost. Aaliyah, he breathed, spinning around. What are you? I am choosing you, I said, firmly. I am choosing danger and chaos and a life that terrifies me, because none of it matters without you. His eyes glistened. You deserve better. I deserve to make my own choices, and I choose you, Min-ho. All of you. He crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled me into his arms, holding me like I was the only thing keeping him alive. 6 months later, I stood outside a different cafe in Gangnam, phone in hand, smiling at the message on my screen. I am already here waiting for you, my love. Same seat as always. I pushed through the door and there he was, Min-ho, looking impossibly handsome in a simple black sweater, his dragon tattoo peeking out, his eyes lighting up the moment he saw me. Hello, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. Hello, my Aaliyah. He reached for my hand, threading our fingers together like he always did, like he would never stop doing. So much had changed. Minho had slowly, carefully begun transitioning his empire into legitimate businesses, art imports, galleries, real estate. It would take years, maybe decades, to fully wash away his father's legacy. But he was trying. For me, for us, for the life we were building. I had started my own photography business, something I had always dreamed about. Minho was my most enthusiastic supporter, and occasionally my model, though he complained every time. We still faced whispers, stares, the occasional threat from someone who wanted revenge for old wounds. But we faced it together. Do you remember the first time we sat here? Minho asked softly, thumb brushing my knuckles. When I tried to run from you. When I realized I could not live without you. He lifted my hand to his lips. Best day of my life. Even though I called you a liar? Especially because of that. His smile turned mischievous. You were the first person brave enough to challenge me. I laughed, the sound echoing through the cafe just like it had 6 months ago when everything had shattered and rebuilt itself into something stronger. I love you, I whispered. And I love you. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my breath caught. Which is why I am asking you, Aaliyah Carter, to marry a reformed Mafia king and spend forever teaching him how to be human. The ring inside was simple, perfect, us. Yes, I breathed, tears streaming down my face. Yes, yes, yes. He slipped the ring on my finger,